I'm Patrick Lancaster, and Iran has responded with a vengeance, supposedly, to the attacks by U.S. B-2s and U.S. submarines on their 3 nuclear key facilities. The last 12 hours have been very intense. We're going to be talking about that, how things are playing out. Is there a ceasefire? Isn't there a ceasefire? Was this a huge attack on U.S. bases in the Middle East, or was it an attack on parking lots? We're also going to touch on what did Trump really hit, or what appears that he really hit in Iran. Did he just hit some empty holes in the ground that Iran already had time to empty all of the enriched uranium out of? What's really happening, as far as we can see from afar, we're going to be telling you what's been happening over the last 12 hours. Has this just been a show between the U.S. and Iran? Was anything actually destroyed on both sides? 13 hours ago, CNN was reporting that Iranian authorities said that this was going to be a long, dragged-out war between Israel and the United States and Iran, and could take up to 2 years. And that the United States is going to pay directly for the war and supporting Israel, their ongoing project in the Middle East. A short time after that, it was reported that Iranian ballistic missile launchers were preparing to fire, and then an Israeli official came out saying Iran has fired on U.S. bases in the Middle East. Air defenses were initialized in Qatar. Explosions were heard in Iraq. 6 Iranian ballistic missiles came storming into the airspace of the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid, and a reported fire started after they impacted. How many actually impacted is unclear. How many were destroyed by the air defenses and so on. But there are videos of what appears to be impacts making it past the air defenses in Qatar. And this U.S. base, Qatar, Al Udeid, is normally the base for many U.S. servicemen, many U.S. aircraft, as we can see here in this satellite image taken on June 5th, full of U.S. aircraft. But it seems the U.S. has had prior knowledge and has evacuated the base, at least of the U.S. aircraft, as we can see here on this satellite image taken on June 19th. Empty of U.S. aircraft. Now, were they told that this base was going to be hit, or was it just a normal response to a perceived threat, emptying the base if it was going to be a possible target? Don't know. But it seems like this base getting hit was protected and evacuated before it was getting hit. So was the other bases that were supposedly hit or targeted, were they empty as well? Was this just a planned thing to let Iran save face, show a little action, show a little aggression to save face after being attacked by the U.S. big bad bombers with the big bad bunker busters weighing 30,000 pounds each, and the Tomahawks? Did anything really happen in this exchange between the U.S. and Iran? Unfortunately, I'm not there on the ground to tell, but everything that's coming out, I'm disseminating it as not, it seems it's a good possibility that not really anything happened here. As far as we look at the key nuclear facilities in Iran, there's satellite images of trucks supposedly pulling up to the doors of these bunkers, specifically the Fordow nuclear facility, and removing something. Iranian authorities said days before the enriched uranium had been removed. There's no leaks detected. So it seems like the U.S. attack on the facilities didn't do anything. Well, that's what the Iranian authorities said. And now there's even, I believe it's the Financial Times come out and said that the facilities were not destroyed and the enriched uranium was removed. There's just many reports of the Iranian nuclear facilities not being gone as Trump says, and specifically the enriched uranium not being gone. Well, they're gone from that location. Now the U.S. doesn't know where they are anymore, apparently. Alarms ring out at the Al-Khir U.S. Air Force Base in Iraq as the Iraqi authorities announce more launches from Iran. Sirens ring out across the Middle East, in Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait, as Iraqi authorities announce more launches from Iranian territory. The IRIB, Iranian Broadcasting, basically, has announced the start of the Iranian operation Basharat al-Fatah against U.S. bases in the Middle East. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Iraq all began to close their airspaces on the news of war hitting their airspace. Bahrain called on their citizens to immediately suspend their movements. And it should be noted that just before this attack on U.S. bases started, the foreign minister of Iran met with Putin in Moscow. Is this coincidence or directly linked? Were they given the green light? And it's being widely reported now that Iranian officials have said they coordinated these attacks with at least Qatar, possibly U.S. authorities, to reduce casualties. So this backs up the claim of, was there really any fighting here going on? Were they just hitting parking lots? And here we can see part of the Patriot missile system that was supposedly used to intercept Iranian ballistic missiles over Qatar. Just amazing how fast the information and images and videos come out of places like this. Even though I'm not there on the ground, I've already got the actual video that Iran took of their ballistic missile being launched at Qatar, at the U.S. military base there. And here we can see the panic in the Qatar capital, Doha, in a shopping mall as Iranian ballistic missiles are homing down on their capital. And keep in mind, Trump said any retaliation by Iran would be met with a force greater than the attack on the nuclear facilities by the B-2s and Tomahawk missiles 2 days ago. Don't forget that. Out of the blue, Israel came to setting an end date for the end of the week for the war after these attacks by Iran on U.S. bases in the Middle East. They said in the coming days, the attacks by Israel on Iran will be the most powerful in order to convince Iran to stop. Well, let's remember, it was Israel that attacked Iran, and United States that attacked Iran. And a U.S. official came out saying Trump will not respond to these attacks on the U.S. bases in the Middle East. Instead of the promised response by Trump of a force greater than had seen before, Trump comes out with a tweet saying, okay, we've got a ceasefire. I've made peace. He loves doing that, it seems. Remember the Iran-Pakistan war. All the power to him if he can stop people from dying, but it doesn't always work out so well. Ukraine, Russia. So in this tweet, he says, congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-Day War. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. That is not the response he promised. So he put out this tweet as bombs in the air towards Israel, and either in the air or just after hitting the U.S. bases. What do you think about this? Promising one thing and delivering something else. Now let's see how the timeline continued after this tweet. Right away, media started reporting that Iran had not received any ceasefire proposal. Now, okay, did they, didn't they? It takes time for things to disseminate from the top. And even many times it takes days for ceasefires to really kick in after the hold off. I mean, you got to give people the benefit of the doubt, even Trump. I mean, you know, commanders don't always listen when there's a ceasefire declared. That's a fact. So it can take several days for things to calm down. And even Iranian media, no confirmation of ceasefire from the top. And Israel declining to comment on a ceasefire agreement. And top advisor to Iran's parliament speaker came out and said, signals of a ceasefire, lack of a response to attacks, or anything of that nature coming from Trump or the regime are merely deception aimed at surprise and deceit to escalate the conflict. If we are not diligent, we will suffer a heavy blow. Not looking good so far, at least at this point in the timeline. Let's see how this plays out. So much information about this base in Qatar getting hit, but there appears to be other bases that got hit in the Middle East, including the Taji camp in Iraq. And here we can see the results of an impact that purportedly are radar equipment burning in this U.S. base. This news is quoting an unnamed source saying the unofficial proposal for a ceasefire has been received and emphasized in response to this media atmosphere. The Islamic Republic of Iran will show the Zionist regime the falsehood of this claim in a particularly field manner in the coming hours. Well, let's see how that plays out for both sides. And here's an image of an Israeli Air Force fighter purportedly after Trump's announcement of the upcoming ceasefire hitting a target in Tehran, the capital of Iran. And an Iranian foreign minister then came out and denied any arrangements between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Now, he posted this post at 3:50, which was 10 minutes before the ceasefire was supposed to take effect. He said there was no ceasefire agreement, but he said if Israel stops, they'll stop. So they had 10 minutes to stop. Okay, and then he came out saying that they had punished Israel up to the very last minute at 4 a.m. Okay, he just had said prior before there was no official agreement, but okay, seems that he, the foreign minister of Iran, is confirming the end of hostilities between Iran, Israel, and, well, I guess the United States. And this comes after his meeting with President Putin of Russia. And then, of course, time for Trump to chime in. He says, Israel and Iran came to me almost simultaneously and said, peace. I knew the time was now. The world and the Middle East are the real winners. Both nations will see tremendous love, peace, and prosperity in their futures. They have so much to gain and yet so much to lose if they stray from the road of righteousness and truth. The future for Israel and Iran is unlimited and filled with great promise. God bless you both. A statement from the President of the United States just after U.S. bases were attacked by one of these countries that he is saying God bless. Interesting new way to go. Hopefully it works. And purportedly after this tweet by President Trump, the early warning system of Israel goes off again, and a major attack of Iranian ballistic missiles is detected headed towards Israel. Now keep in mind, take everything with a grain of salt. I'm doing my best to put the images together and the information together as I get it, as I got it, and disseminate it to you in the best possible way I can. So now there's images and videos coming out of these impacts from this barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles on Israel. Here is an image of an explosion in Negev, Israel, and more in Beersheba. And it appears Israel was hit after the ceasefire took place. We can see in this video here that the sun is sitting as if it's just first thing in the morning, which would make sense of the timeline of the ceasefire taking place at 4 in the morning, and then in the next hour the sun started to rise, since just 2 days ago was the longest day of the year. So it appears that Beersheba was hit in Israel pretty hard. There's reports of several dead and over 20 injured. Here we can see what appears to be clearly a civilian area hit. And then another wave of ballistic missiles from Iran. Now keep in mind the timeline's a little bit shady, but again, it appears that this was just after the ceasefire was supposedly supposed to take place, but not 100%. So we're doing everything we can, again, for you. And search and rescue is ongoing in Beersheba, Israel. There are conflicting reports of exactly how many were killed. Some say 4, some say 11, or even more. And at this point, it's being described as Iran was just mag dumping ballistic missiles. And the 4th barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles has reportedly hit Tel Aviv. And during all of these reports and images of ballistic missiles hitting Israel, Trump continues on his barrage of tweets, this time saying, "We couldn't have made today's deal without the talent and courage of our great B-2 pilots and all of those associated with that operation. In a certain and very ironic way, that perfect hit late in the evening brought everyone together and the deal was made." Okay, yeah, good on servicemen, you know, and all that good stuff, but this perfect hit, the perfect hit on a location that Iran says was empty, didn't have the enriched uranium anymore in it. Satellite images and intel shows trucks pulling up to the entrances days before it emptying. Was this all smoke and mirrors? We've got on one side a possibility of the U.S. hitting empty holes in the ground, basically. Well, of course, you know, they had facilities in them, but, you know, the uranium was purportedly removed, and the Iran hitting bases that they gave notice to, or there was notice gotten, and emptied. So it's one side hitting a hole in the ground, the other side hitting an empty parking lot. Was there any real war here between the two countries? I wasn't there, but I'm bringing you all the information I can. And contrary to these reports of a ceasefire in place, there was a 6th wave of Iranian ballistic missiles detected. And in the midst of this, again, Trump says this ceasefire between Israel and Iran is permanent and will last forever. And he finally exactly tweets, ceasefire in effect, do not violate it. And a little bit of good news, Israel has announced and confirmed the ceasefire, saying Israel has achieved all of the objectives of the operation and more. Israel has eliminated a dual, immediate, existential threat, both in the nuclear and ballistic realms. Yeah, maybe because most of the ballistic missiles were fired on Israel. In addition, the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, achieved complete control over Tehran's airspace, inflicted serious damage on the military leadership, and destroyed dozens of Iranian central government facilities. Israel thanks President Trump and the United States for both their defense support and participation in eliminating the Iranian nuclear threat. In light of achieving the operation objectives and in full coordination with President Trump, Israel agreed to the president's proposal for a bilateral ceasefire. Israel will respond harshly to any violation of the ceasefire, the government said. So is there a ceasefire? You comment below. Is it going to hold? Was there any real result of the war between Iran and the United States? Or did they just show that they were tough to each other? Was it just all to save face? Did the attacks on the nuclear facilities in Iran by the United States actually do anything? Did the attacks on U.S. air bases in the Middle East by Iran actually do anything? It seems not. Can you please comment below and tell me what you think? And what is the future? What's going to be happening? Now, at the time of this recording, this is what has happened. So of course, as things develop, we're going to try to get this video out to you as soon as possible. And as things develop, we're going to be bringing you more updates on this and much, much more. So please comment below what else you want to see. What did I miss? What was I wrong on? Is there anything that possibly I reported that wasn't accurate? As I said, I'm not there. I'm trying to get as much information from as many different sources as possible. As I tell you, you need to do. Don't just watch my reports. Watch as much information from as many different sources as possible, because I certainly don't have all the information. So let's work together to show the world what we can. Please like this video, share it across all social media. Remember, we're in this together. And I'm a totally independent crowdfunded journalist. You can support my work with the link on the screen or in the description. Go down and click that donate link, support my work. And also click that link, Substack, and subscribe to my free blog there. So much information, more information goes there than just on my YouTube channel. We're in this together. Let's do it together. We're out.